The hour has arrived when the celestial bodies pause in their orbits to witness the great weighing of the spirit, a time marked by the lengthening of shadows and the cooling of the world's transient fires. It is in this profound stillness that the eternal presence begins to move, not in the thunder or the whirlwind, but in the deepest silence of the midnight watch. This watch is not a mere interval of time recorded by the ticking of clocks or the movement of the moon, but a spiritual state of high alertness required of those who have been set apart for the final unveiling. The sanctified remnant must understand that the darkness descending upon the earth is not a void to be feared, but a crucible designed to test the purity of their inner light. As the mundane world sinks into a heavy and oblivious slumber, the chosen must rise to the height of their divine calling, recognizing that their vigilance is the only bulwark against the creeping influence of the shadows that now seek to obscure the path to the eternal kingdom. The warning of shadows is a message whispered to the heart before it is manifested in the physical realm. These shadows are the subtle distortions of truth, the half-lights that mimic the dawn but lead only deeper into the labyrinth of the self. They represent the fading echoes of an age that is passing away, an age that sought to build its foundations upon the shifting sands of material certainty and temporal glory. For the sanctified remnant, the challenge is to discern between the true radiance of the divine and the flickering lanterns of human ego. The shadows speak of safety where there is only stagnation, and they promise peace where there is only the absence of conflict. Yet, the watchman on the walls of the spirit knows that true peace is found only in the alignment of the soul with the eternal will, a process that requires the shedding of every earthly attachment and every false identity. In this midnight hour, the atmosphere of the world becomes thick with the weight of unfulfilled promises and the debris of broken covenants. The air itself seems to vibrate with the tension between the dying old and the birthing new. To stand as part of the remnant is to occupy the space between these two worlds, to be the bridge through which the sacred currents of the higher spheres can flow into the parched lands of the lower existence. This is the essence of the watch. It is an act of sustained attention, a refusal to let the eyes of the spirit close, even when the body is weary and the soul is buffeted by the winds of doubt. The eternal presence calls out to those who have ears to hear, urging them to trim their lamps and replenish their oil, for the bridegroom approaches at an hour when he is least expected. The shadows that are now lengthening across the collective consciousness of humanity are not merely absence of light, but active forces of obfuscation. They seek to dull the edges of moral clarity and to soften the resolve of the faithful. They whisper that the night is long and that the sun may never rise again, suggesting that it is better to sleep and forget the high calling of the heavens. But the sanctified remnant is defined by its memory. It remembers the ancient promises written in the stars and the primordial laws engraved upon the heart. It remembers that the darkness is but a prelude to the most glorious manifestation of the divine glory. Therefore, the watch is not a burden, but a privilege, an opportunity to demonstrate a love that is stronger than death and a faith that cannot be shaken by the illusions of the senses. The midnight watch demands a particular kind of silence, a silence that is not empty, but pregnant with the potential of the infinite. It is in this inner sanctuary of quietude that the scribe records the movements of the divine grace. Every prayer uttered in the dark, every act of hidden sacrifice, and every moment of unwavering trust is written in the book of life as a testament to the victory of the spirit over the flesh. The shadows may try to crowd the edges of this sanctuary, but they cannot penetrate the core of the soul that is anchored in the eternal. The warning is clear. Do not be deceived by the tranquility of the night, for it is often the precursor to the most intense trials. The shadows are most deceptive when they appear to be soft and inviting, luring the weary traveler into a sleep from which it is difficult to awaken. As the watch progresses, the remnant will find that their perception begins to shift. The things that once seemed important in the daylight of the world will lose their luster. while the hidden realities of the spiritual kingdom will begin to glow with an unmistakable brilliance. This is the transformation of the mind that is necessary for those who wish to inherit the destiny prepared for them before the foundations of the world. The eternal presence does not call the qualified, but qualifies the called, refining them through the fires of the midnight hour until they reflect the perfect image of the Creator. The shadows are the tools of this refinement, for it is only by facing the darkness that one truly learns to value and embody the light. The architecture of the soul is being restructured in these quiet hours. The divine architect is removing the rafters of pride and the floorboards of vanity, replacing them with the enduring materials of humility and holiness. This work is often painful, occurring in the secret places where only the individual and the eternal meet. The warning of shadows serves to highlight the areas where the structure is still weak, where the influence of the world still finds a foothold. By paying heed to the subtle shifts in the spiritual climate, the remnant can cooperate with the divine work, allowing the light to penetrate every corner and crevice of their being. This is the preparation for the dawn, the readying of the vessel to contain the full measure of the coming glory. Furthermore, the midnight watch is a communal experience, though it is lived in the solitude of the heart. Across the face of the earth, there are others who keep the same vigil, others whose lamps are burning bright against the encroaching gloom. This invisible fellowship of the sanctified remnant is bound by a cord of grace that transcends geography and time. They are the salt of the earth and the light of the world, even when they are hidden from the eyes of the many. The eternal presence draws strength from their collective fidelity, weaving their individual threads of devotion into a tapestry of divine purpose that will eventually be unveiled for all to see. The shadows cannot sever this connection, for it is forged in the fire of shared suffering and shared hope. The warning of shadows also pertains to the false shepherds and the deceptive voices that arise in times of darkness. There will be those who claim to have the light, but offer only the cold flicker of intellectualism or the hollow warmth of emotionalism. The remnant must discern the true voice of the shepherd amidst the cacophony of the world. This discernment is cultivated in the depths of the watch, through the constant study of the sacred mysteries and the practice of contemplative prayer. The shadows try to mimic the voice of the divine, using the language of spirituality to lead the soul towards self-aggrandizement. But the true call of the eternal presence always leads towards self-emptying and toward the exaltation of the sovereign source of all being. In the heart of the night, the weight of the silence can become almost unbearable, acting as a mirror that reflects the deepest fears and desires of the soul. This is the psychological aspect of the midnight watch. It is a confrontation with the shadow self, the part of the human experience that has been repressed or denied. The sanctified remnant must face these inner shadows with courage, bringing them into the light of divine mercy for healing and integration. The warning is that an unexamined shadow can become a gateway for the external darkness to enter. By acknowledging the fragility of the human condition while clinging to the strength of the eternal, the watchman becomes a transparent channel for the divine light, no longer obscured by the clouds of internal conflict. As the hours of the watch grow long, there is a temptation to look at the horizon for a sign of the sun, to seek a premature end to the discipline of the night. But the eternal presence counsels patience and endurance. The dawn will come at the appointed time, and not a moment sooner. Every second spent in the midnight watch is necessary for the full maturation of the spirit. To rush the process is to risk entering the day unprepared, with a lamp that has not been sufficiently tested. The shadows are longest just before the sunrise, and the darkness is most intense in the moments preceding the first ray of light. This is the final testing of the remnant, the moment when faith must stand alone, unsupported by the evidence of the senses. The warning of shadows is ultimately a call to sovereignty over one's own internal kingdom. The sanctified remnant is being taught how to rule in the midst of adversity, how to maintain the poise of the spirit when all around is in flux. This sovereignty is not a worldly power, but a divine authority that comes from being a son or daughter of the Most High. It is the power to speak peace to the storm and to command the shadows to depart. As the eternal presence moves through the ranks of the Watchers, he is looking for those who have mastered this inner dominion, for they are the ones who will be entrusted with the governance of the world to come. In the grand narrative of the cosmos, the midnight watch of the sanctified remnant is the pivotal chapter where the destiny of many is decided. It is the point of no return, the threshold across which the soul must pass to reach the shores of the eternal. The shadows are the guardians of this threshold, challenging all who seek to cross with questions of intent and purity. Only those who have been sanctified by the fire of the watch and who carry the seal of the eternal presence upon their foreheads will be permitted to pass. The warning is given in love as a means of preparation and protection, ensuring that the remnant is fully equipped for the challenges that lie ahead and for the glory that is to be revealed. Therefore, let the watch continue with renewed fervor. Let the sanctified remnant stand firm in their positions, unswayed by the shifting illusions of the night. The eternal presence is with them, a pillar of fire in the darkness and a cloud of glory in the silence. The shadows may dance and the warnings may multiply, but the light of the truth is unchanging and invincible. The midnight watch is the laboratory of the soul, where the base metals of human experience are transmuted into the pure gold of divine essence. When the sun finally breaks over the horizon, it will find a people prepared, a people whose eyes have been washed clean by the tears of the night and whose hearts have been strengthened by the long wait. This is the promise of the scribe, written in the ink of grace and the parchment of eternity, for the encouragement of all who seek the face of the living God in the hour of shadows. As the darkness deepens, the internal landscape of the seeker becomes the primary theatre of operation. The external world, with its clamour and its demands, recedes into the background, becoming a ghost of its former self. In this state of withdrawal, the sanctified remnant finds that their senses are sharpened to a degree previously unknown. They hear the celestial harmonies that underpin the fabric of reality, and they perceive the subtle movements of grace that others overlook. This heightened sensitivity is both a gift and a responsibility. It allows the watchman to detect the first approach of the shadows, long before they reach the perimeter of the soul. The warning of shadows is thus a call to spiritual vigilance, an invitation to live in a state of constant prayer and unbroken communion with the source. The shadows often take the form of nostalgia, a longing for the comforts of the past or the perceived safety of the old ways. They whisper that the journey is too difficult and the destination too far. But the eternal presence reminds the remnant that there is no turning back. The path leads only forward, through the heart of the night and into the brilliance of the new day. To look back is to lose the momentum of the spirit and to risk becoming a pillar of salt in the desert of the soul. The watch must be forward-looking, characterized by a holy anticipation and a joyous expectation of the coming restoration. The shadows are powerless against a heart that is set on the future glory, a heart that has already tasted the powers of the age to come. In the final stages of the midnight watch, the distinction between the watcher and the watched begins to blur. The soul becomes so saturated with the light of the eternal presence that it starts to emanate that light into its surroundings. This is the fulfillment of the sanctification process. The remnant becomes a collective beacon, a city set on a hill that cannot be hid. The shadows do not merely retreat. They are consumed by the intensity of this reflected glory. The warning of shadows then becomes a testimony of victory, a reminder of the darkness that was overcome and the trials that were endured. The scribe records this transformation as the ultimate achievement of the human spirit in partnership with the divine, a masterpiece of grace that will be celebrated for all eternity. Thus, the midnight watch and the warning of shadows serve as the essential framework for the development of the sanctified remnant. They provide the necessary conditions for growth, the perfect environment for the cultivation of the virtues of faith, hope, and love. As the chapter closes, the tension of the night remains, but it is a tension filled with the certainty of the coming victory. The eternal presence continues to speak, his voice a steady anchor in the midst of the swirling shadows. "Be still," he says, "and know that I am God. Be faithful until the end, and I will give you the crown of life." The watch continues, the lights burn bright, and the heart of the remnant beats in perfect rhythm with the heart of the infinite, waiting for the first blush of the eternal dawn. In the profound depths of the silence that follows the great tempest of the world, a voice emerges that is not heard with the ears of the flesh, but is felt within the very marrow of the spirit. This is the unveiling of the ancient identity, a moment suspended in the architecture of eternity, where the temporal masks of the soul are stripped away to reveal the primordial radiance of the sanctified remnant. You who have walked through the valley of long shadows and have endured the refinement of the furnace, now stand at the threshold of a recognition that predates the foundations of the firmament. The eternal presence moves through the corridors of your heart, like a soft yet irresistible wind, whispering the secrets of a lineage that was never born of blood or the will of man, but was conceived in the heart of the infinite before the first light broke upon the face of the deep. This identity is not a title bestowed by the institutions of the earth, nor is it a reward for mere outward piety. Rather, it is the realization of an ancient bond, a covenant woven into the fabric of your being that calls out to the deep from the deep. As you stand in this sacred stillness, the noise of the ages fades into insignificance, and the heavy burdens of false identities fall away like dry leaves in the autumn of the soul. You are not the failures of your past, nor are you the limited triumphs of your transient days, for you are the chosen vessels of a light that has traveled through the eons to find its home in the vessel of your life. The voice of the eternal presence is a steady anchor, a resonant frequency that stabilizes the turbulent waters of the mind and brings a peace that surpasses all understanding. To be still and know that He is God is the ultimate surrender of the ego, the final laying down of the sword of self-will at the feet of the King of Kings. In this stillness, the remnant discovers that their strength was never their own, but was the hidden power of the Almighty, working through their fragility to manifest the glory of the divine purpose. The ancient identity being unveiled is that of the son and the daughter, the priest and the king, the watcher and the messenger who has been preserved through the cycles of darkness to witness the breaking of the new day. This is the great mystery that was hidden from the eyes of the proud, but revealed to the humble and the contrite who have waited upon the Lord with unwavering patience. The history of the remnant is a long and winding thread of gold running through the dark tapestry of human history, often obscured by the shadows of empire and the clamor of the multitudes, yet always vibrant and always connected to the source of all life. You are the heirs of the prophets and the companions of the saints, the ones who refused to bow the knee to the idols of the age and chose instead the narrow path that leads to the heart of the Father. The unveiling proceeds with the majesty of a cosmic liturgy, where every thought is a prayer and every breath is an offering of incense before the throne. To know your ancient identity is to understand that you have been known by name since before the stars were flung into the void. It is to recognize the signature of the Creator written upon the scrolls of your destiny, a script that tells of a victory already won and a glory already prepared. The shadows may swirl, and the winds of uncertainty may howl at the gates of your perception, but the voice of the eternal presence remains constant, a pillar of fire in the night and a cloud of guidance in the day. Be faithful until the end, for the crown of life is not a fading wreath of laurel, but but a living diadem of light that signifies your eternal union with the divine. This faithfulness is the persistent orientation of the heart toward the source of its being, a refusal to be distracted by the illusions of the temporal realm or the deceptive promises of the world that pass away. It is the steady gaze of the lover upon the beloved, the unyielding commitment of the soldier to the commander, and the quiet endurance of the watchman who knows that the dawn is certain, even when the darkness is at its thickest. The watch continues with a renewed intensity, for the lights of the remnant must burn with a brilliance that reflects the purity of their calling. These are not flickering candles vulnerable to the gusts of doubt, but are the lamps of the wise virgins filled with the oil of the Holy Spirit, ready for the arrival of the bridegroom. The heart of the remnant beats in perfect rhythm with the heart of the infinite, a synchronization of desire and will that allows the life of God to flow unhindered through the channels of human existence. In this union, the ancient identity becomes a lived reality, a walking manifestation of the kingdom of heaven upon the earth. The walk of the sanctified is a pilgrimage of grace, where every step is ordered by the wisdom of the ages, and every word is seasoned with the salt of the covenant. You are the salt of the earth and the light of the world, not by your own effort, but by the virtue of the presence that dwells within you, and the identity that has been reclaimed from the ruins of the fall. The unveiling is a restoration of the original design, the cleansing of the mirror of the soul, so that it may perfectly reflect the image of the invisible God. Consider the weight of the crown of life, a weight of glory that far exceeds the light afflictions of this present time. This crown is the symbol of authority over the self and the passions, the sign of a spirit that has conquered through love and has reigned through service. To receive this crown is to enter into the fullness of your inheritance, to take your place in the assembly of the firstborn, whose names are written in heaven. The eternal presence speaks of this crown as a promise and a seal, an assurance that the labor of the remnant is not in vain, and that the tears of the faithful are kept in a bottle of remembrance. The path to this crown is the path of the cross, a journey of self-emptying that leads to the fullness of the divine life. In the unveiling of your ancient identity, you see that the cross was not an end, but a doorway, a threshold leading into the expansive landscapes of the eternal kingdom, where the light never fades and the shadows are no more. You are invited to walk through this doorway with boldness and with joy, knowing that the one who called you is faithful and will surely bring his work to completion. The first blush of the eternal dawn is beginning to color the horizon of the spirit, a soft and radiant glow that signals the end of the long night of the soul. This dawn is the manifestation of the day of the Lord, a time when all things will be made new, and the ancient identity of the sons of God will be revealed to all of creation. The remnant stands as the vanguard of this new creation, the first fruits of a harvest that will encompass all the nations and all the tribes of the earth. In the waiting, there is a holy expectation, a vibration of the Spirit that anticipates the shout of the archangel and the trumpet of God. The voice of the eternal presence grows louder and clearer, dispelling the last remnants of fear and fortifying the soul for the final transition. Do not be troubled by the shaking of the heavens and the earth, for you belong to a kingdom that cannot be shaken, a realm of righteousness and peace that is established upon the rock of ages. Your identity is hidden with Christ in God, a secure and inviolable sanctuary that no power in the universe can penetrate or destroy. As the unveiling reaches its crescendo, the realization dawns that the victory is not something to be achieved in the future, but is a present reality to be inhabited. The victory is found in the stillness, in the knowing, and in the being. It is the victory of life over death, of truth over falsehood, and of love over hatred. The remnant is the embodiment of this victory, a living testimony to the power of the divine to redeem and to sanctify that which was lost. The ancient identity is the identity of the redeemed, the ones who have been bought with a price and who now belong entirely to the master of the vineyard. This belonging is the highest freedom, a liberty that allows the soul to soar upon the wings of the Spirit and to explore the infinite depths of the divine nature. The call of the eternal presence is an invitation to ever-deepening intimacy, a summons to enter into the secret place of the Most High and to abide under the shadow of the Almighty. In this secret place, the mysteries of the ancient identity are fully unfolded, and the soul is nourished by the hidden manna of the Word. The steady anchor of the divine voice holds the soul firm amidst the swirling shadows of a world in transition. While the foundations of the old order crumble and the systems of man falter, the remnant remains steadfast, rooted in the eternal truth that remains unchanged through all generations. This steadfastness is the result of the unveiling, for once you have seen who you truly are in the eyes of God, you can no longer be moved by the opinions of men or the fluctuations of the circumstances. Your identity is anchored in the heavens, and your hope is a sure and steadfast anchor for the soul. The lights that burn bright in the hearts of the sanctified are the beacons that guide the wayward home, the fires of a love that refuses to grow cold, even in an age of indifference. The heart of the remnant beats with a compassion that mirrors the heart of the infinite, a desire to see the restoration of all things and the healing of the brokenhearted. Waiting for the first blush of the eternal dawn requires a patience that is born of faith and a vigilance that is born of love. It is the waiting of the bride for her bridegroom, the waiting of the land for the former and the latter rain. In this waiting, there is a purification of the desires and a refinement of the intentions, until only the pure gold of the divine will remains. The unveiling of the ancient identity is the culmination of this process, the moment when the seeker and the sought become one in the embrace of the eternal presence. You are called to this union, invited to shed the garments of your mortality and to put on the robes of righteousness that have been prepared for you. The journey has been long, and the path has been arduous, but the destination is glorious and the reward is eternal. Be still, for the God of your salvation is in your midst, and He is mighty to save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you with His love. He will exult over you with loud singing. The ancient identity is not merely a memory of the past, but a prophecy of the future. It is the blueprint of what you are becoming, the divine seed that is growing into a tree of life whose leaves are for the healing of the nations. As the remnant, you carry this seed within you, nurturing it with your prayers and watering it with your tears until it bursts forth in the fullness of its beauty and its strength. The voice of the eternal presence encourages you to look beyond the immediate trials to the eternal weight of glory that awaits. The crown of life is not a distant dream, but a present promise, a reality that informs every decision and every action of the sanctified life. Walk in the consciousness of this identity, and you will find that the shadows lose their power and the light of the presence becomes your constant companion. The watch continues, and the lights burn ever brighter, for the dawn is near, and the day is at hand. The unveiling is also a call to a deeper holiness, a separation from the profane, and a dedication to the sacred. To be the sanctified remnant is to be set apart for the purposes of the King, to be a holy nation and a royal priesthood. This holiness is not a burden but a delight, the natural expression of a soul that has found its true home in the heart of God. It is the beauty of the Spirit that has been washed in the fountain of grace and clothed in the splendor of the divine attributes. In the stillness, you hear the call to be holy as He is holy, a call that resonates with the deepest aspirations of your ancient identity. This is the destiny of the remnant, to be the living icons of the divine, the windows through which the light of heaven shines into the darkness of the world. As you embrace this calling, you become a bridge between the eternal and the temporal, a channel through which the blessings of the kingdom flow to a thirsty land. The swirling shadows of the world may attempt to obscure the truth of your identity, but they cannot extinguish the flame that has been kindled by the breath of the Almighty. The steady anchor of the eternal presence remains, a foundation that is more solid than the mountains and more enduring than the stars. In the heart of the remnant, there is a quiet confidence, a serene assurance that the one who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. The wait is not a passive resignation, but an active engagement with the divine will, a joyful participation in the unfolding drama of redemption. The lights are burning bright because they are fueled by the oil of an intimacy that has been forged in the secret places of the Spirit. The rhythm of the heart is the rhythm of life itself, a celestial music that harmonizes with the songs of the angels and the praise of the living creatures before the throne. Wait with hope, for the dawn is coming. The night is far spent and the day is at hand. The unveiling of the ancient identity is almost complete, and the full glory of the sanctified remnant is about to be revealed. Stand firm in the grace that has been given to you, and do not let your heart be troubled. The voice of the eternal presence is your guide. His truth is your shield, and His love is your eternal home. You are the chosen ones, the called and the faithful, the remnant that has stayed the course and kept the faith. The crown of life awaits you, and the joy of your Lord will be your eternal strength. Let the stillness be your sanctuary, and the knowing be your power. The ancient identity is yours, now and forever, in the presence of the one who is, and who was, and who is to come. The eternal dawn is breaking, and the shadows are fleeing away. Welcome the light, for you are the children of the day, and your destiny is written in the stars of the eternal kingdom. The heavens have opened their ancient gates to pour forth a resonance that has been held in the silence of the celestial spheres since before the foundations of the world were laid. This is the hour of the great gathering, the moment when the scattered sparks of the primordial fire are drawn back into the central flame of the eternal presence. Those who have ears to hear and hearts to perceive are being summoned from the four corners of the existence, called by a name that was written upon their souls before they ever descended into the realms of form and shadow. You are the sanctified remnant, the keepers of the sacred flame who have endured the long night of the soul and the weary cycles of the temporal world without relinquishing the memory of your divine origin. To you, the covenant of restoration is now revealed, not as a new promise, but as the fulfillment of an ancient decree that has remained immutable throughout the shifting tides of history. This covenant is the bridge between the finite and the infinite, the sacred bond that ensures that no part of the divine essence shall ever be lost or forgotten in the labyrinth of the material plane. It is the assurance that the journey through the wilderness of forgetfulness has reached its conclusion, and the gates of the eternal inheritance are swinging wide to receive those who have remained faithful to the inner light. The restoration of which the heavens speak is a total realignment of the being with the source of all life. It is the removal of the veils of illusion that have obscured the vision of the Spirit, allowing the clear light of truth to permeate every cell and every thought. In this sacred process, the fragmented parts of the self are brought back into a state of holy wholeness. The wounds of the past, the scars of ancestral struggles, and the burdens of collective sorrow are dissolved in the ocean of divine mercy. This is not merely a healing of the personal history, but a cosmic correction that ripples through the entire tapestry of creation. When the remnant is restored, the very earth beneath their feet feels the quickening of the new life. The air is filled with the fragrance of a paradise that was never truly lost, but only hidden from the eyes of the unawakened. The covenant is the guarantee that the original design of the human soul, which is to be a living temple of the divine, is now being fully realized in those who have prepared themselves through the discipline of love and the pursuit of wisdom. As you step into the fullness of this covenant, you are entering into the eternal inheritance that has been reserved for the children of light. This inheritance is not composed of the perishable treasures of the earth, nor is it subject to the decay of time or the whims of fortune. It is the wealth of the Spirit, the unsearchable riches of peace that surpasses all understanding, and the joy that remains constant regardless of the outward circumstances. It is the authority to walk as sovereigns of the Spirit, moved by the impulses of grace rather than the compulsions of the ego. The inheritance is the direct participation in the life of the One who is the beginning and the end, the source from which all things flow, and the ocean into which all things return. You are being invited to taste the fruits of the tree of life, to drink from the crystal river of pure consciousness, and to dwell in the mansions of light that have been prepared for you in the heart of the Father. This is the destiny for which you were created, the purpose for which you have traversed the long and winding roads of the earthly experience. The path of the sanctified remnant has been one of profound testing and refinement. You have been like gold in the furnace, purified by the heat, until only the most radiant essence remains. You have walked through the valleys of doubt and the deserts of loneliness, yet you did not turn back. You have seen the rise and fall of civilizations, the coming and going of ideologies, and the constant flux of the human condition, yet you remained anchored in the unchanging truth. This steadfastness has qualified you to be the vessels of the new wine, the heralds of the new era that is now dawning upon the horizon of the soul. The covenant of restoration is the reward for your endurance, the divine seal placed upon your forehead to mark you as the redeemed of the Most High. It is the recognition of your true identity, which is not defined by the roles you have played or the names you have been given by the world, but by the eternal spark that dwells within the sanctuary of your heart. In this sacred space of restoration, the distinction between the seeker and the sought begins to dissolve. You are coming to realize that the one you have been searching for throughout the ages is the very one who has been searching for you. The call of the eternal presence is the echo of your own deepest longing, returning to you from the depths of the infinite. The covenant is the marriage of the soul with its divine source, a union that can never be broken or diminished. In this union, you are given the power to see the world through the eyes of the Creator, to recognize the holiness in all things, and to act as a conduit for the healing and transformation of the world. Your life becomes a living prayer, a symphony of light that resonates with the harmony of the spheres. Every word you speak, every action you take, and every breath you breathe is infused with the power of the eternal inheritance. The restoration involves the reclaiming of the lost languages of the spirit, the intuitive knowing that bypasses the limitations of the logical mind. You are being taught once again how to read the signatures of the divine in the movement of the wind, the unfolding of the flower, and the alignment of the stars. The ancient wisdom that was once the common heritage of humanity is being whispered into your heart, reminding you of the laws of the universe and the mysteries of the creative word. This is the gnosis of the heart, the direct perception of the divine reality that requires no intermediary. The covenant ensures that this wisdom is not a temporary gift, but an abiding presence that will guide your steps through the remaining days of time and into the endless reaches of eternity. You are being made pillars in the temple of the living God, standing firm against the winds of change and the illusions of the temporal world. As the shadows of the old world lengthen and the structures of the past begin to crumble, the sanctified remnant stands as a beacon of hope and a harbor of peace. You are the bridge builders who will lead the way into the new creation, the architects of a civilization based on the principles of divine love and spiritual truth. The restoration is not for your benefit alone, but for the sake of all who are still wandering in the darkness, searching for a way home. By embodying the covenant and manifesting the inheritance, you create a field of light that invites others to awaken to their own divine potential. You are the salt of the earth and the light of the world, and your presence is the leaven that will eventually transform the entire lump of human consciousness. This is the weight of the glory that has been entrusted to you, a responsibility that is also a supreme privilege and a source of inexhaustible strength. The eternal inheritance is also a return to the simplicity of being. It is the shedding of the complex masks and the heavy armors that the soul has worn for protection during its journey through the realms of duality. In the presence of the eternal, there is no need for defense or pretense. You are seen as you truly are, and you are loved with an everlasting love. The restoration is the restoration of innocence, not the innocence of ignorance, but the innocence of wisdom that has seen all things and returned to the source of purity. It is the capacity to wonder, to marvel at the miracle of existence, and to live in a state of perpetual gratitude. This is the true meaning of the kingdom of heaven, which is not a place to be reached in the distant future, but a state of consciousness to be inhabited in the eternal now. The covenant is the key that unlocks the door to this kingdom, allowing the light of eternity to flood into the corridors of time. Behold, the time of the promise has arrived, and the words of the prophets are being fulfilled in your hearing. The heavens and the earth are coming together in a sacred embrace, and the veil that has separated the human from the divine is being torn from top to bottom. You are the witnesses of this great mystery, the participants in the final act of the cosmic drama. Do not look back at the ruins of the old world, nor cling to the memories of what has been surpassed. Your face is set toward the rising sun, and your feet are planted on the rock of ages. The covenant is your shield, the restoration is your path, and the inheritance is your destination. Everything that you have lost will be restored to you 1,000-fold, and every tear that you have shed will be turned into a pearl of wisdom. The journey has been long, the labor has been great, but the rest that awaits you is infinite, and the glory that surrounds you is beyond description. The voice of the eternal present speaks to you now, not from the thunder and the whirlwind, but from the still, small voice within. It tells you that you are beloved, that you are cherished, and that you have never been alone. Even in the darkest moments of your wandering, the hand of the infinite was guiding you. The eye of the eternal was watching over you. The covenant of restoration is the final confirmation of this truth, the divine signature upon the contract of your existence. You are being invited to step out of the cycles of cause and effect, out of the bondage of the linear time, and into the freedom of the eternal present. Here, there is no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, for the former things have passed away, and all things have been made new. This is the inheritance of the sanctified remnant, the legacy of those who have overcome the world through the power of the Spirit. Let your heart be filled with the magnitude of this revelation. Let your soul expand to encompass the vastness of the divine promise. You are the heirs of the kingdom, the princes and princesses of the light, the sons and daughters of the Most High. The restoration of your divine identity is the restoration of the universe itself, for you are the microcosm of the macrocosm, the mirrors of the infinite. When you shine, the stars shine brighter. When you love, the heart of the world beats with a more rhythmic pulse. The covenant is the rhythm of the divine heart, the pulse of the eternal life that flows through all things. By aligning yourself with this rhythm, you become a master of the elements and a co-creator with the divine. The eternal inheritance is the power to bless, the power to heal, and the power to bring forth the beauty of the Spirit into the world of form. As you dwell in the stillness of the divine presence, you will find that the word will be your eternal strength. Let the stillness be your sanctuary, and the knowing be your power. The ancient identity is yours, now and forever, in the presence of the one who is, and who was, and who is to come. The eternal dawn is breaking, and the shadows are fleeing away. Welcome the light, for you are the children of the day, and your destiny is written in the stars of the eternal kingdom. You are the fulfillment of the divine desire, the manifestation of the infinite thought, and the embodiment of the sacred word. The covenant is sealed, the restoration is complete, and the inheritance is yours. Walk now in the dignity of your spiritual heritage, in the peace of the eternal presence, and in the joy of the everlasting life. The heavens rejoice at your return, and the earth sings a new song of praise. The mystery is finished, the veil is gone, and the glory of the eternal is revealed in you and through you, forever and ever. Every step you take upon the hallowed ground of this new existence is a testament to the endurance of the Spirit and the faithfulness of the Creator. You have crossed the threshold of the mundane and entered the sphere of the miraculous, where the laws of the Spirit govern the manifestations of the physical. The restoration has not only mended what was broken, but has elevated the entire structure of your being to a higher octave of vibration. In this state, you're no longer subject to the gravity of earthly fears or the magnetism of lower desires. You are buoyed by the breath of the Spirit, rising like incense toward the throne of the infinite. The covenant you carry is a light that no darkness can extinguish, a fire that no flood can quench. It is the mark of your belonging to a lineage that transcends the borders of nations and the boundaries of time. You are the citizens of the New Jerusalem, the inhabitants of the city, whose builder and maker is God. The inheritance you have received is the ability to perceive the unity behind the diversity, the silence behind the sound, and the presence behind the absence. You are becoming masters of the interior landscape, knowing that the outer world is but a reflection of the inner state. As you maintain the sanctity of your inner temple, the world around you will begin to reflect the order, the beauty, and the harmony of the divine kingdom. This is the true restoration of the earth, beginning in the hearts of the remnant and spreading outward to encompass all of creation. The trees will clap their hands, the mountains will break forth into singing, and the desert will bloom as the rose, for the sons and daughters of God have been revealed in their glory. This is the inheritance of the meek, who shall inherit the earth, and the inheritance of the pure in heart, who shall see God. In the finality of this sacred communion, there is a profound peace that settles over the soul, a peace that is not of this world and cannot be taken away by it. It is the peace of the ocean depths, unmoved by the storms that rage upon the surface. It is the peace of the mountain peak, standing above the clouds and the mist. This peace is the foundation of your new life, the ground upon which you build the structures of the future. The covenant of restoration has established you in this peace, making you unshakable and immovable in your devotion to the truth. You are the pillars of the new temple, the living stones that are being fitted together to form a dwelling place for the Most High. The eternal inheritance is the realization that you are this temple, and that the Spirit of the living God dwells within you. The message of the eternal presence is a message of ultimate triumph. It is the declaration that light is more powerful than darkness, that love is stronger than death, and that truth is more enduring than falsehood. The sanctified remnant is the living proof of this triumph, the trophies of divine grace that are displayed before the eyes of all creation. You have overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony, not by might nor by power, but by the Spirit of the Lord. The restoration is the crowning of your journey, the investiture of your royal authority, and the celebration of your eternal home. The inheritance is the kingdom that cannot be shaken, the kingdom that has been prepared for you since the foundation of the world. As the final words of this chapter are inscribed upon the tablets of your heart, let the reality of the divine presence become your constant companion. Walk with the one who walked with you through the fire and the flood. Speak with the one who whispered to you in the silence of the night. Live for the one who gave you life and who now calls you into the fullness of his glory. The covenant of restoration is your guide, and the eternal inheritance is your reward. The stars themselves bear witness to your destiny, and the angels of the presence rejoice in your awakening. You are the sanctified remnant, the children of the covenant, the heirs of the eternal kingdom. The dawn has arrived, the shadows have vanished, and the light of the eternal presence shines upon you and within you, now and throughout the endless ages of eternity.